They will not hand you the crown. They will not move aside and make space for your greatness. They will not nod in approval when you dare to speak your dreams aloud. No one is coming to grant you access to your destiny, because destiny is not something you're given. It's something you take. You do not need permission to win. History has never belonged to the timid. It has always favored the bold. Men like Edison didn't wait for society to tell them it was time to bring light into the darkness. Lincoln didn't ask for approval when he stood against a nation torn in half. Ford didn't knock politely on the door of convention. He kicked it in, tore out the hinges, and rebuilt transportation for every man. And Carnegie, that steel empire wasn't built because someone said you're ready. It was built because he decided he was. There is a moment, and if you listen closely, you'll feel it now, a moment when a man looks into the mirror and understands that life owes him nothing, that permission is a prison, and the key was in his hand the whole time. This moment, this is where power begins. You've been conditioned since birth to wait for green lights. Permission from teachers, from parents, from peers. Wait your turn. Wait until you're qualified. Wait until you're ready. But champions, the ones who carve their names into time, don't wait. They declare, you are not here to be liked. You are not here to meet expectations that don't serve your vision. You are not here to water yourself down to make others comfortable. You are here to build, to believe, to break limits, to become. There is no panel of judges measuring your worth behind some velvet curtain. No secret society that will call you one day and say, it's time, you've been chosen. You must choose yourself, because while others hesitate, asking, am I good enough, you must rise and shout, I decide I am. Let me tell you the truth, the world bows not to the hesitant, but to the certain. Certainty in your cause, certainty in your purpose, even if that purpose terrifies you, even if no one else sees it, because what they call crazy today, they will call genius tomorrow. The man who built Disney was told his ideas were absurd. Walt was fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination. Imagine that. The man who built worlds inside dreams told he had no vision, but Walt didn't listen. He didn't ask for permission. He created his own kingdom, and then he opened the gates to the world. Understand this. No one can see the vision that was planted in you the way you can. You were given that spark for a reason, not to hide it, not to wait until others approve it, but to guard it, grow it, and ignite the world with it. You don't need a vote. You need conviction. You need to wake up every morning and look the day in the eyes and own it. You need to show up like you belong, not because someone said so, but because you decided so. Every empire begins with belief, before bricks, before budgets, before blueprints. Belief, and belief is not soft. It is not a wish. It is not a hope. It is a declaration made in the dark when nothing around you confirms it, but you stand anyway. Like a tree refusing to bend in a hurricane, like a mountain that will not move, and belief doesn't come from them, it comes from you. This is where mindset becomes your battlefield, where the war is not against others, it is against doubt. It is against the echo of every time someone told you not yet. You're not ready. You're dreaming too big. Kill those voices. They are lies dressed in concern. They are chains disguised as wisdom. A winning mind is forged, not found. It's hammered in fire, tested by failure, sculpted by rejection. You must train your thoughts like warriors, not sheep. Your mind must not be a playground of excuses, but a weapon of clarity. What do you believe, and more importantly, do your actions reflect that belief? Because belief is not just what you whisper to yourself when life is calm. It's what you command when life goes to war with your goals. Belief doesn't mean you don't get knocked down. It means you refuse to stay down. When you believe without apology, the world has two choices, step aside or get run over. That's the kind of belief that bends reality. That's the kind of belief that builds nations, that starts revolutions, that moves humanity forward when everyone else says it can't be done. You think the Wright brothers asked for permission to fly? No, they saw wings in their imagination, and they bled for that dream until it became sky. They failed over and over, and each failure was a step closer to the air, because they weren't waiting for someone to say go. They were the go. What if you started thinking like that? What if you walked into your life like it was yours to command? What if you stopped asking, am I worthy? And declared, I am the standard. What if you finally understood that greatness is not something you apply, for it's something you awaken? You don't need a spotlight. You don't need an invitation. You don't need the applause of the world to validate your roar. You just need to decide to think for yourself. Decide to stop needing approval. Decide to be dangerously committed to your vision, because commitment makes up for what permission lacks. And courage shatters the gate they said you couldn't walk through. If they don't open the door, build your own wall and carve a new entrance. You are not the echo, you are the origin, and your life will be the proof. So many men die long before their heartbeat stops. They live on autopilot. They clock in, clock out, eat, sleep, repeat, and deep down they know they were built for something more. But somewhere along the line they accepted the lie that greatness requires permission, from the world, from society, from some invisible gatekeeper. But hear this, there is no gate, there is no locked door. The only prison is in your mind, and the key is called decision. When you decide that your life is your responsibility, everything changes. No more waiting for someone to tap you on the shoulder. No more waiting for signs that today is the right time. Every moment wasted waiting is a moment your potential is suffocating. You don't need someone to validate your ambition. You need to honor it. You need to stand guard at the door of your mind and defend it like a fortress, because one lazy thought, one seed of doubt, can grow into a forest that chokes your dreams. The enemy isn't out there. It's the hesitation inside you. It's the voice that says, play it safe. The voice that whispers, what will they think? Silence that voice with action, with dominance, with relentless movement toward your vision. Because vision without execution is fantasy, and fantasy without belief becomes regret. Listen, every man who ever changed the world started as someone the world didn't believe in, but they didn't care. They weren't chasing applause. They weren't collecting permission slips. They were building legacies. Look at Churchill, who stood alone in a nation's darkest hour. They told him to surrender, to play politics. But he didn't ask for consensus, he gave orders. He decided that the will of the people would not break, and so it didn't. That's the power of one man who refuses to bow. The same blood runs through your veins. The same fire, the same capacity to declare, this is what I will build. This is who I will become. This is the future I will create, and I don't need you to understand it, agree with it, or endorse it. That's what it means to lead yourself. Before you lead others, before you conquer markets, industries, nations, you conquer the one man looking back at you in the mirror, and here's what that man must know. Comfort is the enemy, safety is seductive. But mediocrity is lethal. You don't rise by staying where it's warm. You rise by stepping into the cold, naked, unproven space of the unknown. That's where all transformation lies, not in comfort, but in chaos embraced with clarity. Clarity that's your next weapon. Not fuzzy dreams, not vague goals, but a burning image of who you must become. Clarity doesn't mean knowing every step. It means seeing the mountain so clearly that you start climbing even when the path disappears. Let me be direct. If your vision isn't terrifying, it's not big enough. If your vision doesn't make people question your sanity, it's not divine, it's domesticated. Burn the blueprint of what they told you was possible. Burn the list of rules you never agreed to. You are not here to live their version of success. You are here to define your own and fight for it, because purpose doesn't whisper, it demands. It grabs you by the soul and says, you know you were built for more. Stop hiding, stop waiting, stop settling. You don't need someone's nod to start. You need a mission worth bleeding for. You need to wake up obsessed with your outcome and fall asleep soaked in the effort it took to pursue it. The world will try to distract you. They'll hand you comforts, numbness, addictions dressed up as entertainment, but that's not what you came here for. You came here to build something immortal. You came here to make your mind a weapon, your words a force, your actions a signature of unstoppable intent. So cut the excuses, rip out the fear. Stop asking for things you were born to take. Success has no gatekeeper, only trespassers bold enough to claim it. And the only question left is this: will you be one of them? There is a moment in every warrior's life when the world tries to bury him not with fists or fire, but with silence, when no one sees the vision, when no one claps for the effort, when every door stays closed and every voice says you can't. That is the test. That is the initiation. Not everyone passes it because it demands something brutal. Faith in yourself when the evidence hasn't shown up yet. Belief in the unseen. Conviction when even your reflection looks tired of fighting. But those who rise through this darkness, those who walk forward anyway, they don't just succeed, they transform. They become unrecognizable to the man they used to be. That is the path of the greats. Ford didn't wait for the horse to be obsolete. He built something the world couldn't even imagine yet. Disney didn't ask permission to dream in animation. He created a kingdom from his mind. Lincoln didn't wait to be accepted. He stepped forward as the man the moment demanded. And in every case there was resistance. There was mockery. There were 1,000 no-s before the one yes that mattered. So understand this: the more you hear impossible, the closer you are to breaking something open. The more they doubt, the more fuel you're being handed. Let their disbelief be your kindling. Let every "you're crazy" become a brick in the foundation of your empire. This is where discipline enters, the most misunderstood force in success. Discipline isn't restriction. Discipline is freedom forged by focus. It is the daily proof that you are who you said you'd be. No fanfare, no spotlight, just the daily, quiet war between who you are and who you refuse to be anymore. Discipline is setting the alarm before dawn because you respect your mission. It's lifting the weight when your body says no because your purpose says yes. It's finishing the sentence, the chapter, the plan, not because someone's watching, but because you are. You must become the type of man who can't go to sleep if he didn't move closer to destiny, not because of guilt, but because his soul aches for forward motion. Discipline sharpens you, discipline hardens you, discipline separates you, and once it's in your blood, once it's in your bones, no one can take it from you. Not failure, not rejection, not life trying to break you in half. Because you built this, not for approval, not for applause, but for the man you promised yourself you'd become. So now it's time to act, not think, not hesitate. Act because action is how power is transferred from the mind to reality. Thoughts are cheap, wishes are everywhere, but actions, that's where you start shaping the physical world into submission. And you don't need a map when you're blazing a trail. You don't need a step-by-step when your mission is to build the step. The man who acts while others are still thinking is already halfway to dominance, not because he's smarter, not because he's stronger, but because he moved, and momentum doesn't ask for credentials. It asks for courage. Let others sit and strategize forever. Let them overanalyze. You move. You adjust on the battlefield. You adapt with scars, not spreadsheets. And when they finally wake up to what you've built, it'll be too late. The crown will already be on your head, and you won't need to tell them how you did it. Your results will scream louder than their opinions ever could, and yet, with all this momentum, there will come a moment where the climb gets steep again. Where the enemy is not out there but in you. Doubt will knock, fear will whisper, comfort will tempt. They don't come as monsters. They come dressed as logic, as reason, as maybe later. They say, slow down, you've done enough, don't burn out. But here's the truth the world doesn't want you to know. Comfort is the coffin of greatness. No empire was built on ease. No legend ever emerged from the warm embrace of mediocrity. And no man ever reached his potential while trying to feel good every step of the way. Because real winning is not supposed to feel safe. It's supposed to feel sacred. You don't chase a calling because it's comfortable. You chase it because your soul catches fire every time you imagine what it could be. And that vision that is your compass, when the days get heavy, when the path gets lonely, when the applause disappears and all that remains is you versus yesterday, that vision must burn so clearly in your mind that it drowns out the noise. You must see it, feel it, smell it like it's already here. You must walk like the crown is already yours, not in arrogance but in alignment. Clarity is your weapon. Clarity cuts through confusion like a blade through fog. The man who knows exactly what he's after will always outlast the one who only kind of wants it. And clarity only comes when you strip away the lies the world fed you about who you are, the limitations you adopted from parents, teachers, culture, failure. Burn them all and ask, who would I be if I stopped waiting for permission? Who would I become if I no longer feared judgment, failure, rejection? That version of you, that untamed force, is still inside. Buried, maybe, but not dead. And the moment you decide, truly decide, to act from that place, you are no longer ordinary. You're no longer explainable. You become dangerous, because now you're not operating from fear. You're moving from conviction, and conviction is magnetic. It turns heads, it makes others uncomfortable, it alters reality, because now you're not asking if it can be done, you're doing it. You're not looking for a guarantee, you are the guarantee. You become your own permission slip. You give yourself the authority. You stamp your own destiny and send it out into the world with the force of a storm. And let me say this clearly, the world does not resist the man who knows where he's going. It may test him, it may delay him, but eventually it bows, because power respects power, and clarity, discipline, belief, and action. When they move together, they become unbreakable. But even then, even when the path is clear, even when the progress is real, you will face storms. Not the kind that rattle windows, the kind that shake the soul, loss, failure, betrayal, moments where everything you built seems to teeter on the edge of collapse. It's in those moments that the average man folds. But not you, because you understand now storms don't break warriors, they reveal them. Adversity doesn't ask for permission either. It crashes through the door unannounced, demanding to know who you really are. And your answer must be carved not with words, but with will, with fire, with an unshakable spine that says, I will not bow, not to fear, not to failure, not to anything that threatens the vision I was born to fulfill. Think of every great man who walked before you. Lincoln carried the weight of a fractured nation and still held his soul intact. Edison failed 10,000 times and lit the world anyway. Carnegie came from poverty, but he didn't beg the world to see him. He built the world that could no longer ignore him. These men didn't wait for the storm to pass. They walked into it. They welcomed the trial because they knew something most never learn. Growth lives in the fire. You don't build a legacy in ease. You forge it in chaos. You become it in pain. The storm is the rite of passage, and you were born for this. So don't run. Stand tall. Look it in the eyes and say, is this all you've got? Because when you refuse to break, when you plant your feet while everything shakes, you earn something no one can ever take from you, inner power, and that power compounds. Every day you rise when you could have stayed down. Every time you speak truth instead of hiding behind silence. Every move you make without needing approval. You are adding to your force. You are building something eternal. But here's what separates the truly elite from the almost successful: adaptability, the willingness to adjust, to evolve, to bend without breaking. Because life doesn't reward the most rigid, it rewards the most relentless. When the plan crumbles, rebuild. When the market shifts, pivot. When the world changes, you change faster. It's not about avoiding chaos. It's about becoming so damn fluid that nothing can hold you. You flow around the obstacle. You rise through the setback. You adapt until there is no scenario where you don't win, because winners don't worship comfort. They worship truth, and the truth is this: the world belongs to the man who refuses to stay the same and still, even with vision, even with fire, even with resilience and adaptability. There's one more law of greatness the world avoids because it's not glamorous. Discipline, that quiet, ruthless force that separates dreamers from doers. Discipline is not loud, it doesn't shout, it doesn't seek praise, it shows up when it's inconvenient, when it's painful, when no one is watching. It's the early morning when you could sleep, the reps when your body says stop, the extra hour when your mind says enough. Discipline is the edge, the multiplier, the force that converts belief into achievement. And it must be forged, because no one is born with it. You train it, you earn it. You create standards so high, even your worst days look like someone else's best. And when the world says, take a break, you say, I didn't come this far to pause. Because understand this, without discipline, your gifts rot, your vision fades, your potential goes to the grave with you, and the graveyard, it's full of brilliant men who lacked follow-through, ideas that never got finished, dreams that never became destiny because they waited for motivation. Instead of becoming machines of execution, you must learn to do it anyway, when it hurts, when it's boring, when it feels like it's not working. Because the man who can act without needing to feel ready wins, and here's the deeper truth most never reach. Discipline creates freedom. The more you master yourself, the less the world can control you. You move when you choose, you focus when others drift. You command your time, your energy, your mind, you become unshakable. You operate with precision while the world lives in reaction. You build momentum while others binge comfort. And over time, the compound interest of your discipline becomes undeniable, because results are not random. They are the inevitable consequence of decisions made daily. While others coast, you climb. While others doubt, you decide. While others wait, you win. And it all starts with the inner decision to live like this isn't a game, like this isn't just a phase, like this is your mission, not a goal. Not a hobby, a mission, a fire you protect with everything in you, because once you lock onto that, everything changes. People feel it when they talk to you. Your presence carries weight, not because of arrogance, but because of alignment. You've become what few ever do, a man who needs nothing from the world to move like he owns it. You didn't wait, you didn't beg, you didn't ask for applause or a green light. You decided, and that decision, that moment where you said, I don't need permission to win, that's the birth of your new life. So now you stand here not as who you were, but as who you chose to become, the man who didn't wait, the man who didn't ask. The man who didn't check if it was okay to be great, because by the time the world noticed you, you were already moving like a giant. You spoke your truth before they were ready to hear it. You built your dream before they believed it was possible. You walked into rooms like you belonged, because in your soul you already did. And that's the secret, not luck, not timing, not a golden handout from the sky. It was you. You made the decision. You lit the fire. You embraced the loneliness. You carved your path with bloody hands and a steady mind. You rejected the lie that says, wait your turn. You broke the myth that says, play small to stay safe. And you crushed the illusion that someone else holds your future in their hands. Because the truth, the eternal, unbreakable truth, is this: no one can give you what you refuse to claim, and greatness is claimed. It is demanded. It is taken by those willing to become it before the world confirms it. The permission was never theirs to give. It was yours to seize, and you did. So walk like it, lead like it, live like it, not tomorrow, not when it's convenient now, because the clock is ticking. The The sands are falling. And there is no more time for doubt, delay, or quiet desperation. You have a vision, you have the power, you have the scars that prove you've paid the price. Now step into the world not like a man waiting to be chosen, but like a force that cannot be ignored, because you don't need permission to win. So now you stand here not as who you were, but as who you chose to become, the man who didn't wait, the man who didn't ask, the man who didn't check if it was okay to be great, because by the time the world noticed you, you were already moving like a giant. You spoke your truth before they were ready to hear it. You built your dream before they believed it was possible. You walked into rooms like you belonged because in your soul you already did. And that's the secret. Not luck, not timing, not a golden handout from the sky. It was you. You made the decision. You lit the fire. You embraced the loneliness. You carved your path with bloody hands and a steady mind. You rejected the lie that says, wait your turn. You broke the myth that says, play small to stay safe. And you crushed the illusion that someone else holds your future in their hand. Because the truth, the eternal, unbreakable truth is this: no one can give you what you refuse to claim, and greatness is claimed. It is demanded. It is taken by those willing to become it before the world confirms it. The permission was never theirs to give. It was yours to seize, and you did. So walk like it, lead like it, live like it, not tomorrow, not when it's convenient now, because the clock is ticking, the sands are falling. And there is no more time for doubt, delay, or quiet desperation. You have a vision, you have the power, you have the scars that prove you've paid the price. Now step into the world not like a man waiting to be chosen, but like a force that cannot be ignored, because you don't need permission to win.